Hi, welcome to today's video. This is a video I've been looking to do for quite some time in relation to some of the packaging issues with the Murphy Models Class 201. So apologies for the delay in getting it out, but I think better late than never. So let's get into it. So the story begins back at the end of last year, where I went to purchase the MM0208 River Lagan. There was two left in Hattons for the princely sum of £129. So I did my order on the 27th of November, and I got my first locomotive appeared on the 5th of December. And I suppose disappointment was what met me when I actually opened up the box. Now the outside box actually looked fine. It didn't look like it had been dropped or there was any damage. But when I took out the locomotive and opened the box, this is what I saw. So looks really nasty. The locomotive had punched through the left hand side of the casing there, and you'll see some other photographs here, and obviously is damaged, and you can see that it's actually run over the middle. So the rear bogie there is actually gone over the middle piece of the plastic casing as well, which doesn't look very healthy for it. So really not very good. So no evidence on the outside of the box of this. Again, a bit of a closer look there at the front, and you can see there's obviously buffer damage at the front there. And taking a look from the other side, you can see how it's actually punched through, and really it looks doesn't look at all good in terms of the packaging. And you can see paint marks on the roof there as well, or on the top side of the inner lining, which again not a good indication of the sort of damage. So the whole front area there was broken off. Obviously the buffers, the buffer beam, and the actual housing or housing for the buffer itself. So not pretty, plus a lot of scrapes and damage to the paintwork at the front there. So I sent these photographs back to Hattons, the good people in Hattons, and they arranged for a replacement for me. There was one left in stock, so that's what they shipped out to me. So we move on to the River Lagan number 2, which was received on the 30th of December. And I use the term despair here because, again, I opened the box, and what do I find? It's punched through again on the left hand side. Slightly different, but more or less the same in terms of the end result, and same sort of damage. So not pretty. Again, buffer beam damage at the front, lot of scratching of the paintwork there. You can kind of just see it on the photograph. Obviously damage to the front, and really, not what you want. And again, looking at the rear bogie, which is kind of risen up over that center piece of the inner lining there again, which again wouldn't inspire confidence in terms of the impact it's going to have on the locomotive. So not pretty. You can see the bits and pieces. There are some of obviously the buffer being damaged, buffers broken off, the couplers broken off, and paintwork damaged. So not a very pretty sight. So again, taking a look at the level of damage to the lining, and you can just see how it's broken there. It's just, now I'll get into it a little bit later on, talking about how we can fix this, because you can see there's no support there. So if you get the full force of that locomotive hitting against the side of that lining, and if that lining is in any ways weak, it's just going to break like it has broken here, and you're going to get the sort of damage that I had. So you can see the lack of support around the actual locomotive area with this type of packaging. And again, this is a photograph from the inside, and you can just see all the marks with the paint that's come off, and that just shows you, the sort of damage again that's happening, the amount of force that was taking place here when that locomotive hit the edge of the packaging, and you've got paint all over the place. So obviously damage to the locomotive from a paint perspective. So what does this all mean? And it's just a case of I get a replacement and it's all well and good. Well, if you're a buyer, these are the kind of issues, and you're purchasing from a vendor. Just the time and inconvenience of returns. It's just a pain. You have to package the thing up, post it back, get in contact with the vendor, etc. You mightn't be able to purchase the item anymore from the vendor, and this is what happened to me. There was only 2 of these River Lagans left, and that was the 2 of them broken. So all sold out, and I couldn't get them from anybody else. Now, you might pick them up on eBay these days, but you won't pick them up for £129, which is what I was purchasing them for at this point in time. So not a good story. Also, if you're purchasing from eBay, you do have the risk of not being able to secure a return at all from the vendor. Vendor might just disappear, or might be willing to pay ball. No, you will ultimately be able to get something back through PayPal and your credit card insurance if that's needed. So you should be able to at least recoup the purchase cost. Now, if you're an actual seller, this is not good at all. So if you're selling one of these 201s on eBay, for example, first off, you're going to lose on the postage and packaging costs. So you're going to have to refund those and then pay for either a replacement or, let's say, just a refund. If the item isn't fully insured or up to the correct value, you're going to lose on that in terms of claiming anything back from either the courier involved or the postal service if it was a registered item. Now, you still may be able to get some residual value from the item. The first of the river lagons, I actually did test it out on a track, kind of dusted it off and got everything in place, and it still ran, so it still ran okay. So you could probably have patched that together, glued the buffer beam back on, added some weathering to make up for the marks in the paintwork, and sell it on, and you get some money maybe for that. Other issues is just the lost time. Again, dealing with returns is never good, and it just gives you a bad feeling when you've got to deal with a return. And then there's potential reputational damage as a seller, be it on eBay or elsewhere, that you may get from something arriving at a customer in such bad condition. So really, this is the starting point of the story. This is the experience I had last year. I have looked at other packaging. I have quite a number of 201s, and they all have the same issue with the packaging. Okay, so really in the next section I want to talk about what can you do about this. What are the things you can do to help mitigate sending a locomotive if you're selling it yourself and it arriving at whoever you've sold it to in this kind of condition because it just happened to get dropped by accident, and the locomotive itself in its own weight actually is doing a lot of the damage here. So let's take a look at that in the next section of the video as to how we can mitigate against this. Okay, so now what can we do about this problem? So first of all, let's take a look at this guy. Now this is the river foil. Actually, it's the stablemate of the river lagon, which I never succeeded in getting. Let's just take a look at this guy out of the box, right? So here's the normal. Thankfully this one arrived in one piece. I got this one from Mark's Models, and we'll see in a minute probably why it did arrive without any issues. So let's just take this top cover piece off. Okay, so this is the normal sleeve that you get here. So this guy is in good nick, thankfully. So we'll just take this out. So we take a look at the casing. So this is the casing that we had, same as we had before. So let's just take a look underneath, and you will see that they've added in, our good friends in Marks have actually put in some styrofoam pieces here to provide support around the model. Okay, so if you don't have these, you have what I had with the river lagon, and you have this no support at the front here. See this quite weak piece of plastic here. So this is the one that caused the issue on the river lagon. So that was punched through. Now there's actually a little bit of paintwork up there, so this has actually come under stress at some point. So there was some stress on this model at some point during its transportation. So there's a little bit of paint, as you can see, in the inside of the lining there. So, but overall the model's in good nick, and it's fine. It's not an issue. So this is our problem: this lack of support around this area here, and literally all the way around the model, because it could punch through on either side. So this, again, that's why that piece is in place. So fair dues to our good friends in Mark's Models. They did a good job here. So they actually augmented the packaging from Murphy Models, and that's what you're going to have to do if you want to send these, if you want to post one of these to somebody, and not have to hope that it gets there in one piece. So what are they used these little styrofoam pieces, and it's probably not a bad option. Actually, it's not a bad option. You can kind of fill this up around here, and then literally put the box on top of it and put it in place, and you're good to go. A couple of other options. And again, this is just if you have sections of styrofoam, more or less the same option again, but if obviously you've had some straight pieces, it might be a bit neater to fit that in if you had the right size of styrofoam to fit in there. This is another sort of styrofoam. This is actually quite good. I think this is even superior. It's got good rigidity, but will give if you need it. So this is very often, you see this in some sorts of packaging materials. So another variant on that. This is foam, kind of a soft foam. Now this isn't a good choice because this is just too soft. It doesn't give any support. So see that there? There's no support. So that sort of foam is no good. So don't use that. The other sort of foam, which I think, and I'll show this with another locomotive in a minute, is this grey foam, which is quite dense and does give a better level of support. And I think that is an option. So if you have that sort of strong grey foam, that is an option to use as well. So we've taken a look at the 201. I want to take a quick look at the 071 for a minute. Let's just put these guys up here. And we're going to take a look at a box. I don't have a locomotive in this. This is an 071 box. And I suppose what I want to do here, I'm just going to zoom out for a minute here so we get a better look. So it's the usual 071 box, and it looks familiar. Now let's just take this guy out and we'll see what there are some differences, and there were some improvements done. And I think this is probably in response to the issues seen. So first off, you get a bit of extra protection with this guy. Now, this box has actually been augmented as well. I got this on an 071 from DC Kits. Now, the packaging does come with these pieces here. You see these plastic inserts? So they're part of the standard packaging on the 071. You don't have them on the 201s. So there was obviously an issue, and they were added to the 071s. Why were they never added to the 201s? Now, DC Kits have actually gone even further, and they've put in some bubble wrap in underneath, and they packed it in pretty tightly. So this is quite a rigid assembly here, and would give a good level of support. So you can just feel it there. It's quite rigid. So they've augmented it with bubble wrap, and they've battened this down quite tightly, so they've done it on top of what Murphy models have already given. So another option for you. And as I say, the fact that they've actually augmented the 071 kind of indicates that there's been problems with the 071. I've never had a problem with it, but they must have had some bad experiences with the 071. So this is one that came from DC Kits, and fair play to the guys in DC Kits. They obviously had some experience with this, and they've made these changes. Okay, so that's just another example. So one more, and I just want to show you. Okay, so just one more item I want to show you, and this is what locomotive I'm just reviewing right now, and I'll have a review up on this in the next couple of weeks. It's the Class 52 from Dapol. Now, Dapol have a good record in terms of their packaging, and let's just take a look at this guy and see what he looks like. So you've got this grey foam that I was talking about early on. It's all surrounding the model, so you've got grey foam all the way around. You've got the typical ice cube package in the middle, which I think is quite good because it kind of gives a good level of support for the model, and it sits an awful, it holds the model kind of in place without putting too much pressure on any of the detail parts. Now, two things to look at. There, see this added end foam piece here on either end. That's to prevent the sort of punch through effect that I was talking about. And they've also got foam on top and bottom and here as well, again to give extra levels of support to the model. And it's the usual sort of ice cube effect that people would be familiar with from a Bachmann, for example. But fair play to Dapol, five star for the packaging. They've actually augmented it with this extra support, and they've not just done it here within this, so they've added it here, and they've also added it into the box as well. So they just don't have a bare bones box, which is what you get with Bachmann. They've put some extra foam around it to give it the protection. Now, Dapol have heavy locomotives, so it's a good reason for them to do it, but best in class. And the new Class 121s apparently are going to be using packaging that's probably not too dissimilar to this. It's not going to be the old packaging, and obviously Paddy Murphy has decided he needs to change that for the 121s, which would be delicate enough locomotives, and I think you wouldn't want to damage them. So that's the support aspect, really key. Now the other thing I want to talk about before we finish this, and it has to do with a little bit of extra, this effect that I saw here with the paint coming off. So part of the reason for that is you're not getting enough coverage for the locomotive. Now one of the things on the 071s, which is, I've always found it pretty good on the 071s. I'll just take it back here for a minute, and it's the kind of inner sleeve that they provide, which is a very soft material. See, this is quite soft material, and this provides excellent protection, and it's the full length of the locomotive. So look at that. And if you compare that to the flimsy plastic on the 201s, which doesn't even cover the full length of the locomotive, and hence you don't get protection at the edges where you need it. So this is the other thing you need to protect against. You need to protect against the movement of the locomotive and protect the paintwork within the model. So something like this, you need something that covers the full length of the model. So this is really good. This kind of waxy plastic, and it's quite thick film that you can wraps around your locomotive. You use it to lift the locomotive out of the box, and it provides this fantastic cushioning effect, which both holds the locomotive in place and it also protects your paintwork. So these aren't easy to come by. So what are you going to do? Well, there's probably a couple of options. You could get an extended plastic sheet and maybe double it up. So get something that's the full length of the locomotive and double it over like that. You need to get a bigger sheet than I have here. That's probably one option, and that will give you the full coverage to cover the top ends of the locomotive. So that's one option. You could also use this kind of packing paper, which you'd see on the outside of your boxes, for example, that you might get from Bachmann or even from Murphy Models. This kind of softish paper, probably doubled over once, and again, place your locomotive into that, holds it in place, also protects the paintwork. Maybe not as good as the 071 film, which I think is really good, but another option for that. And lastly, I want to, and you can get this, you'll see this in some sort of packing materials. This is a kind of a soft packing sheet. It's kind of aerated. Again, maybe double it up to get the coverage that you need. But again, providing that soft cushioned effect, holding the locomotive in place and also protecting the paintwork from movement against the actual, which is quite a tough case. So that case there is actually causing that problem. So a couple of suggestions. I think really what I have to say here is you need to do something. You cannot leave it as it is. And if you're ever going to be shipping or selling one of these onto somebody, please take the extra precautions to pack it up better so that it arrives in one piece and you don't get into all the hassle of issues with returns, damage to the locomotive. These things are getting more expensive. Most of the 201s are sold out now, and so the price is starting to skyrocket on eBay. So these are valuable locomotives. A lot of them are limited editions, and it is just such a crying shame to see them get damaged in the post because of just, well, here in this case it's the poor manufacturing, the packaging that comes from a manufacturing perspective. You're going to have to augment it. Unfortunately, what Murphy Models are giving you isn't good enough, so you're going to have to fix it. Why they didn't add the extra improvements to the 201 packaging that they did to the 071, I just do not know. But I'm sure they've learned their lesson, and they're going to do a better job on the 121. So apologies if this is a little bit of a negative video. It's not meant to be. It's meant to be informative. I want to be aware of the challenge here, the issues here. If you've had these problems before, please give me some feedback in the comments. I would like to hear what your experiences have been. If you've experienced the sort of issues I had with the two river lagons, which looks like I'm never going to own a river lagon at this stage, but that's fine. But did you have similar experiences in the past, or what other experiences? Did you have issues with the 071, for example, if you own an 071, or if you have problems with getting those, receiving them or sending them? Would welcome your feedback, would welcome any other techniques maybe that you've used to improve the whole packaging situation for these locomotives. The other point I will make is that This type of plastic ages over time, so it becomes more brittle. So as it ages, it becomes more brittle. If you expose it to the sun, it'll become more brittle quicker. So you need to keep this in the dark, but over time it eventually will age, and it'll only get worse. So the message is you need to take steps to resolve this. Okay, that's it for this particular video. I wanted to get it out sooner. Apologies for that. Really, it's a warning to people. It's maybe a help to give you some guidance as to things you might be able to do to improve things, and really hope that it's too late for the 201 now, and the 071, their manufacturer discontinued at this stage. Looking forward to the 121s in their new packaging, which I think is more similar to the Dapol packaging I just showed you there, and we're looking forward to that. So beware. Thanks for watching this video today. I hope it was of use to you, and please take care with your locomotives when you're sending them, to wrap them as good as you possibly can, and hopefully avoid any of the kind of damage that I experienced. And hopefully both you and be it a buyer or a seller, there's no winners when there's an issue here with this, but hopefully everybody will be a winner if you can wrap these properly when you're sending them, and we don't have any more problems like this. Okay, thanks for watching today's video. I've got a few more positive videos hopefully to go through in the next few weeks ahead, so I look forward to seeing you on those, and thanks for watching today, and in the meantime, happy modeling.